Hey everybody, it's Kyle from Young Legends Street Hockey. This is our podcast number 7 episode. I'm really excited today because I have someone that actually reached out to us months ago when she found out that we were building a rink. Alessandra Glista is on today. Major resume in the world of ball hockey as far as women's concerned. I'm going to start with just sort of the basics, and then we're really going to get to know her and where the game of ball hockey is going for women. So this is exciting for all our Young Legends girls out there. This is the future, and Alessandra doesn't even know this, but I have 3 daughters that will be playing down the road. So anyway, a little bit about Alessandra and her career. Right now, she is the Assistant Director of Ball Hockey Operations with USA Ball Hockey. She's the co-founder of the United Women's Ball Hockey Foundation. She'll have a little acronym for that. But what I didn't realize before talking to her is she's an 11-time national player on the women's national team. So we just had Bobby Hauser last week. We've got another fully decorated women's athlete. A lot of people don't even know that we have a women's ball hockey national team, but Alessandra's going to educate us today. And so there's a ton of opportunity. She's been a part of, hopefully I get this right, 5 silver medals, 1 bronze, pretty impressive resume. Thank you so much, Alessandra, for joining us.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me, honestly. So I had talked to Corey Hirsch. I know that you guys had interviewed him earlier, and he had told me, oh yeah, there's someone in Boston, they're trying to build a rink. And I'm sure you've heard this story a million times, but I was like, Gloucester, I skated up there. So I used to play ice hockey all the time up there on Friday nights. So I'm very familiar with Gloucester. I'm right in Winthrop. So when I heard about you guys and what you're trying to do, it's really similar to what we kind of try to do with the United Women's Ball Hockey Foundation. So we call that UWs. But to see that there is another rink in Massachusetts, super exciting, because honestly, there's not that many rinks around us, especially with surfaces and things like that. So it's really hard to find places to play like organized. So when we heard about you guys building a rink, we're fully supporting that, and we definitely want to come out there and do some clinics for you guys and meet you guys. So really excited for you. It's an exciting time for ball hockey, for sure.
It really is. Thank you, Alessandra. Yeah, and I've one of our coaches has a niece in our program that was really excited to hear that there was, U.S. women ball hockey players that could come and meet. So I'm biased. I think our girls are pretty good in our program. We've got some, younger girls coming through the program that'll be pretty good. So I think having influence from you in the team would be helpful. So let's get right into it. Tell us a little about you, your passions, and sort of who you are as a person.
Yeah. So obviously I'm, I love the sport of ball hockey. I've been involved with the sport probably since I was, early teen. And I had a lot of opportunities because of the sport, and it's gotten me more involved. And so I started back with the national team in 2007, but prior to that, I was a soccer player. So I was a soccer goalie. Pretty much got all that kind of training, angles and things like that. And because of that training, my cousins played street hockey, literally in the streets. And they were like, oh, get a net, you'll know what to do. So I thought it was so cool because at the time, there was the Bruins, and I'm going to date myself, but Andy Moog, just so cool. And so I was like, yeah, I'll go in net. And it was awesome. And ever since then, honestly, I haven't stopped. So we found out that there was a league at Hockeytown. So Hockeytown in Saugus, I'm sure a lot of you guys have probably passed that on the way up from Boston to Gloucester. But yeah, we started playing, just in a kids league there, which was awesome, because without that league, honestly, I don't know if I would have continued with the sport, right? Because I was a soccer player. So, but yeah, I played in that league. And then from there we played co-ed. And then it kind of just took off. In high school, I decided I was going to learn how to skate and tried out for the boys ice hockey team at my high school. Made it. I don't know how. I think they felt really bad, but from there went to college and was third string at Northeastern University for ice hockey. And and then in 2006, one of my coaches, the GM for one of the teams back in the day, Mary O'Halloran, she called me and she's like, hey, they want to make a women's national team for street hockey. And I was like, what? And she's like, yeah, it's going to be in Germany. And I was like, I want to play. Yeah. So ever since then, it's just an awesome opportunity to, get to play this amazing sport. A lot of the girls actually that I started with at Hockeytown, they made that 2017 as well. So we got to travel the world and, play the sport that we've all loved. And it's funny because a lot of those players now play on the U.S. Masters team. So it's really cool. Again, it's given me a lot of opportunity to kind of like have this family, second family, my hockey family, and travel. And it's just been great. So that's a kind of a long roundabout way of how I got into it and, what we've been doing since. I can tell you a little bit more about UW. So UW kind of came about because as we were going to a lot of these tournaments, we were seeing the same girls, which is really fun, but it's also concerning because we didn't really see any new faces. And so we were kind of thinking, like, why is that? And I think it was just, awareness. We didn't really have like this community that now we see is so valuable with the UWs, and opportunity, right? Like, so there were women's tournaments, but for a very long time, there were 4 teams that basically played in these tournaments, and we didn't have an A and a B division. It started to grow to about 6 teams, but it's really difficult because you had like the very experienced players playing against like new people, and it's hard, like the experienced players want to compete, and the new players they just learned about this sport and want to play, but it's hard to keep people when the discrepancy was pretty big. So over the years though, we've seen it grow, and as I think you guys know, but if you don't, there's a Cool Hockey Events tournament, and now I think they have more women's teams than they actually have men's teams, but I think there's probably 6 to 8 in the A division and 6 to 8 in the women's B division. So that's great.
You kind of hit on this a little bit to piggyback off what you were saying is you're seeing the same people at the same tournaments. What did you guys do to sort of expand and grow the game? Was it literally just people saying, hey, come play for us, like you recruiting friends? How did you guys kind of grow and change up get more people into the game?
Yeah, I think it was a little bit of that. Right in the beginning, right before UW actually started, we started to see some new faces. So the Boston Sport and Social Club, they had a league that's co-ed, and we saw some new girls kind of come through there. But they really wanted to learn, and the Social Club kind of had a 4-on-4 format. It's co-ed, so it's challenging when you're adults and you're a woman playing against a man. It's pretty challenging to kind of learn and play the game at the same time. So UW was formed in 2015. We just saw a need for like this community and also women's events. There are literally no women's specific tournaments. No one was really coaching the women. We had our coaches on those travel teams that had played together a lot, and Team USA. But other than that, like, there was very, very few teams that had coaching. And these girls just like, I swear, like as soon as someone starts to play, they want to learn. I don't know if for those people that have coached girls and female athletes, there's just this hunger there to learn. And so we really wanted to help these women, just because no one really set aside time for that. So we started doing adult clinics. That's kind of just how it started. And then from there, people were like, we want to play tournaments. So we're like, all right, let's make tournaments. So now we have 2 tournaments a year. Unfortunately, Springfest had to be canceled because of coronavirus, but we have another tournament in October, and it's every year at those 2 times. And so we're hoping to, have Oktoberfest again this year, but I think it's just opportunities. And so as a result of UWs, in these 2 tournaments that we have, we invite anyone that doesn't have a team. I think that's the other thing too, is like, how do I get involved? I don't have a team. And that's one of the cool things about our events is that we take and we draft teams. So if you don't have a team, but you really want to play, we can put you on a team based on your experience level. And it is like by far, like pretty much like the funnest tournaments, right? Because you're there, and it very rarely do you get, like, especially me, like I have our core team that plays in tournaments, but it's a great opportunity to play with different people. and to win with different people and to succeed with different people. It's just so fun. And so we're really proud of that, the fact that we can do that. And then for the other events, we also try to draft an A team and a B team generally to compete in other tournaments. So we try to do the best that we can as far as, hey, who's interested in playing? Who doesn't have a team? Let's try to put a team into an event. It's challenging because it's almost like an all year long kind of thing, but it's super fun. So
that's really interesting. And a couple of years ago when we were talking offline, we created this summer tournament for us up in Gloucester to raise money for our street hockey rink. And our treasurer, who he had started an adult program a couple of years ago when he was in Gloucester, and then he moved down to Orlando, kind of folded. But he put a list of people together that he thought could be drafted onto teams, and it was a tremendous list. I think it's great that you guys are able to draft people, because there's so many people that just want to play, but they might not have a team. And as you said, it's such a niche sport that you have such tight friendships with people that are playing. I did want to ask you though, going back, because you had some really interesting points about being at Northeastern. What did you graduate from there with? What degree? And what was that like, sort of transitioning from ice hockey into ball hockey?
Yeah, so it's pretty hard. So I don't know if I mentioned it, but I'm a goalie. And so coming from ice hockey, you have like a lot more options. Once you get the skating down, right? Like that's something that all ice hockey players work on every single time they're on the ice, is refining that. But, once you get the skating down as a goalie, you have a lot of options, right? You can slide on the ice. The puck comes very true to you. It doesn't really bounce that often. It doesn't really do tricks. And then you're coming to ball hockey, where I wear all the same gear. So except obviously sneakers are instead of skates, right? But all my gear is my ice hockey gear. And that ball just does like crazy things on you, right? Like some of these guys, especially the very elite guys, can make the ball dip, curve, whatever. So it's really helped. It actually helped my ice hockey game because when I saw a puck, it was just so much easier. It's heavier. I can control it. It came true to me. Where the ball, I had to be super quick. So my reflexes were, really quick because of the ball. My footwork, I think, improved because it's very similar. Like, honestly, you always want to be square, right, in ball hockey. And the same thing holds true for ice hockey. But in ice hockey, you can be a little lazier, let's face it, right? Like, I don't have to be exactly square. I have a lot more opportunities to kind of slide around. And with ball hockey and the footwork there, it's much easier to get into position, right? Like once you get onto the ice, because you're always kind of adjusting in ball hockey, and then that just becomes second nature on ice. But yeah, that's the biggest difference. I actually stopped playing ice hockey because it was kind of messing up my ball hockey game, and I'd have to like have this transition time of like, few weeks, like almost a month. And my goalie coach is like, what is wrong with you? Like they're going in right by your foot. And I'm like, I can't just slide my foot out. That's why I'm like, the footwork thing. So, yeah, it's crazy, but ball hockey's super hard. I know like a lot of athletes, they're like, it's street hockey. Anyone can play. But I feel like once you keep working on your game and you get to that elite level, it's very challenging, with that ball. So it's fun.
I agree with you on that. I mean, one night we had invited our Gloucester High School coach, a gentleman named Derek Geary. I don't know if you know Derek. Was drafted by the Bruins, went to Dartmouth. Is actually a musician, just an awesome guy. And he had asked me if I could come up, and the high school team in the summer was doing off ice in the rink. Now he can't step foot in the rink due to MIA rules. So he would have me come in, and then I would do the off ice, and then they would go outside and do strength conditioning with him, like a lot of running on the track, etc. So I said, why don't you come up to Young Legends for an afternoon and just see what we're doing? We're doing an off ice session, meaning we were going to work the kids out. And he said, yeah, I'll come up. So he came up, and he and I got the chance to chat, and he goes, I wonder if there's a correlation between the ability for kids to stick handle, improve their stick handle ability, and then it transitions onto the ice. I 100% believe that it does. I mean, like you had mentioned, being in Winthrop with the Bruins, where it's Corey's a Pittsburgh guy. At least we shared that, right, Alessandra? We got the Bruins, but I mean, I played a lot of street hockey after school. I truly believe that was a very easy transition from stick handling out in the driveway and then taking it on to the ice. I'm not a goalie, so I don't know much about that, but I truly believe that playing on the street really, really develops your skills. So
Yeah, it's
but
funny that you mentioned that. So just this past year, I was actually talking to a former Olympian. She had played just in this past Olympics. And she was saying she had actually also played at Harvard. And she was saying, man, back in the day, I was trying so hard to be one of those elite athletes and stay in shape and all of this. And then she's like, after my career was over, kind of found ball hockey and just started playing. And she's like, I swear I was in better shape than I was in college, because it's hard to run and shoot. It's hard to run and stick handle. You don't have that opportunity to glide or take a stride off, really. And so it keeps you really honest. It definitely, I've heard the same thing as far as stick handling goes. It's improved stick handling. And quite frankly, you can't be on the ice all the time, right? So maybe you have, if you're lucky enough, in high school, I know I used to coach at Winthrop High School, one of the goalie coaches there. But our girls were on the ice, an hour a day, and that's a lot, right? Except Sundays. So 6 days a week, an hour a day, but that's 6 hours, right? Now think of how much you can stick handle in the basement. You can stick handle on your porch. You can stick handle anywhere, right? And so there's just a lot of opportunity to keep working on your game and not be on the ice. And so it's a great, great cross training for those ice hockey players that play. It's great for fitness, obviously, right? Because like I said, you can't take a stride off. You can't just glide anywhere. You literally are like, change, take me off. I'm dying over here. So yeah, it's a great.
In that you're so right about that, because we experienced it firsthand a couple years ago when we introduced our Ironman tournament at the O'Malley rink, which you played at on the ice. The next day, my brother and I are 6 years apart, but we play on the same team together, and we were exhausted the next day. We were like, wow, this is so different having to run. And we weren't running 200 feet. We were running 165 feet maybe, and you're gassed. And of course, with the national team, you've got more than 7 people playing, but still it's like there's no glide whatsoever. And so, and you mentioned that it's a great way to stay in shape too. A lot of people, even adults, it's a great way to keep yourself healthy.
Yeah, for sure. And a lot of our athletes, on the national team, for instance, we have some professional ice hockey players. So they play in the NWHL. And, they're playing ball hockey in the summertime, or when they can, they're working on their skills. I know that you guys had talked to USA Ball Hockey, but we have some training videos there. And some of those girls, again, they're professional ice hockey players, and they're showing you how to do drills for street hockey, so it's definitely great. And, a great cross sport for athletes. The really good thing too is if you're not an ice hockey player, on our national team, we have elite field hockey players, right? Because it's very similar. So the running, the stick handling, I mean, some of these girls, they shoot slightly different than their ice hockey counterparts. But I think that's like the fun of it too. Like, it's the unexpected, right? Like as a goalie, I'm used to seeing like a certain kind of windup all the time, and they'll throw in this like little totally different like kind of angle to their shots, and super elite athletes, because again, they're used to running and stick handling. But the same thing, we've had athletes kind of cross over from like I said, field hockey, soccer, even softball, right? Like, because it's anyone that really likes to run, this is a good sport for them. And especially, you don't have to know how to skate. So it's really it's such a beneficial sport for cross training for athletes. And again, like everyone's talking about athletes kind of doing their sport year round and trying to mix it up. This is one of those great sports that you can literally play anywhere, and the cost is minimal. It's a stick and a ball, you know, at its most basic level. So
Absolutely. We've talked a little bit about that, and over the years that Young Legends been in existence, we've talked to that that we've had one player that comes to mind right away. Never laced him up, never laced up the skates, but is probably to this day one of the top ball hockey players I've ever been able to coach and see play. So if he's watching this, he knows who it is. So, but with that said, I really wanted to ask you a little bit tell us about your experiences on the national team, where you've been able to travel, what that experience has been like. It's probably opened doors that you may not have gotten. Tell us a little about that.
yeah, so you know, for me, I'd call myself a more experienced player on the team, so I'm definitely one of the older players. So our age range at one point was, I would want to say 16 years old was our youngest player, and then it probably went up to, you know, around 40 for our oldest player. So it's, you know, really big range. For our national team, the World Championships are every other year. And so you have a tryout process, basically like a year and a half before the World Championships. Everyone trains on their own. So me, myself, you know, I'll prepare and train for those tryouts so I can be ready and, you know, have a chance to play for the national team. And then from there, there's a couple of evaluation tournaments. There's a camp where they're kind of like whittle it down to, you know, your top 30, 35 players. And then from there, there'll be a selection of 22 players. And then there'll be some alternates as well. And yeah, so our girls, I mean, we've traveled a lot of different places. It's awesome. And probably some more unexpected places since it's ball hockey. So one of our last Masters tournaments was in Bermuda. So it was literally outside on a cliff. It was quite beautiful. It was amazing experience. And that was for the Masters team. So we have different levels of the national teams. We have a U20 girls team. We have a national team, which is pretty much kind of 16 plus. And then we have the Masters team, which is 35 plus, with a couple select underagers. We can have a limited amount of those people. And so, yeah, that team went to Bermuda, but we've gone to Germany, Slovakia, Switzerland, Czech Republic. Yeah, I'm sure I'm forgetting. We've been to Banff in Canada, Bermuda, like I mentioned. This year we were supposed to go to Czech Republic again, but that's since been postponed. So our training's been extended until next year. So what we do on the national team, especially, you know, for this instance, where this is the Masters team, but we kind of keep ourselves accountable. So we talk to like a training buddy, you know, we all like as teammates, we're like, hey, you want to be my training buddy? I'll be yours. And we work out on our own. Some of us use a personal trainer that has been helping us on the national team for quite some time, but you know, you find your own workout programs and things like that. And I have a goalie coach as well. He actually, he's been my goalie coach since I was 14. And then he was my ice hockey goalie coach. And then I kind of convinced him, like, I need a lot of help with ball hockey. And then he came to help me with ball hockey, and he's like, do this. And I'm like, I can't, it's not slippery. I can't, you know, like, so it's kind of like reinventing the way that we kind of played ball hockey versus the ice hockey. But yeah, and then as a team, once a team's selected, you have a couple camps where, you know, you all get together, and these girls are from all across the country. So, you know, Chicago, Pittsburgh, like all different areas. They fly into camps. We have about 2 or 3 of those, depending on, you know, the length of time before the tournament. And then we go and play, you know, and it's awesome. The last tournament we played at was 10 days, which is really long. It's usually about a week. But I think Bobby had said it, and maybe Corey had said it, but you literally feel like you're a celebrity. So I know that you mentioned playing in that ice hockey rink and kind of shrinking it down. Well, we play on 200 by 100 rinks, and they're international ice hockey rinks. It's funny because I remember in Slovakia, we were eating breakfast at the hotel, and there's literally pretty much the equivalent of like Slovakian, you know, national news, and they're playing highlights of our games.
Wow.
You know, like while you're eating, it's like, oh yeah, that was last night's game. And, you know, of course they're very much showing Slovakia, but it was awesome because they actually did show the women, which is great. Like a lot of times you're like, okay, where were the women's in that coverage? But they were really good about that last year, sorry, as far as coverage goes. But yeah, you definitely feel like a celebrity. It's, like I said, an ice hockey arena, so it gets pretty full, especially, when the home team's playing. So when we're playing against Slovakia, it was super exciting. But yeah, it's just crazy. And the cool thing is too, is this past year, NHL Network actually showed highlights of our games.
They did, okay.
So yeah, so surreal. So we've come a long way. I think that's the big thing too. It's like, um, you know, what opportunities are out there, and there are a ton of opportunities, and I think it's just getting the word out there. Like, I don't think that people realize that street hockey that some of them might have played in a gym, maybe, at school, that actually gets to this like international level where, they're broadcasting these games, and stadiums are packed and crazy fans and everything you see at like one of those Stanley Cup games, like NHL games, the horns, the wigs, the flags, like everything. It's so surreal. So it's such a great experience. I've definitely been so fortunate, and it really does seem surreal. So I'm very grateful.
It's amazing to hear you talk, and I love your passion about the way you talk. Because I mean, I hope at some point I'll be able to trying to get three girls on a plane to go watch tournaments is a little challenging right now, but be able to be a part of that. USA Ball Hockey does a very good job of showing the videos of like when Team Slovakia is playing and they got the drums and all that. It's an awesome experience with ISBHF. But with what you were saying as far as opportunity is, what we've noticed is because we still play on a basketball court, we will have a young boy or girl come out onto the basketball court and play, and they play by their gym class rules, which is if they're playing defense, they don't realize they can cross that line. I'm like, no, we don't play that way. You can. We're trying to make it like real hockey here. So I think that with Young Legends in our program in Gloucester is that the goal is the rink will allow us to sort of take our game to the next level, but also maintain that grassroots organization where we're getting kids into the game and maybe you've never played before, and here it is. And that's sort of where you guys come in a lot with helping programs. You and I had chatted a little bit about maybe having your team come out with our women players or girl players and try something. What is the future vision of USA Ball Hockey as far as the women and girl youth? What's that vision look like?
Yeah, so I think like one of the big things, and I saw some of this with United Women's Ball Hockey Foundation. So since that's a little bit older, we started to make this community, and we didn't realize this, but as we started to talk to more people, we realized that there's ball hockey in all these different pockets, right? So we actually, someone reached out to us from Iowa, and they were like, hey, we saw that you guys did clinics. Would you ever come to Iowa to, come do a clinic for us? And I was like, well, yeah, like definitely we'd be interested. How many girls play out there? And they have over 100 girls. I mean, that's just unheard of, especially, for someone like me. I've been playing these tournaments forever. Again, I said I was seeing the same faces, and then to realize that there's 100 other players, women, that play this game, that we never even knew of. So I think that that's part of what USA Ball Hockey is trying to do, is really try to figure out like where is all this ball hockey being played, even if it's street hockey, even if it's deck hockey, even if it's ball hockey. We call it ball hockey because of the international aspect of it. That's what it's kind of referred to everywhere else, and the rules are just slightly different, but it's basically the same thing, right? It's deck hockey, street hockey, pretty much the same thing. It just depends on the size of the surface, but let's try to get all these people together, right? And especially for the girls, I think that that's important to see, is that especially when they're kids, they're playing co-ed, right? And once they hit, I think it's around 15, 16, they kind of age out. And at that point, it's like, well, am I going to really play with like a teenage boy? Because it's physical. Being as a goalie, I've played with men throughout my career because I never had, a women's team to play on. And so I was fortunate, I kind of felt safer in net, just, kind of not having to body, but a lot of my teammates, they just went right through and like played with the men like throughout. But, now I think that we're trying to build this whole like kind of connection across the United States to say, hey, if you're a girl, you can still keep playing, and I think that that's the big thing. We saw that this past October. We were trying to make a U16 division, and it's super hard, right? Because all those girls under 16 play on co-ed teams. They don't have like a women's team to play on. And so we tried to do that, and it didn't really work out. But what did result from it was that we got half a team of Pittsburgh girls that wanted to play and half a team of Long Island girls that wanted to play. And so those girls came to our event, and we put them in the women's B division because we didn't have enough for a U16. And they were just blown away. They were like, oh my God, like women play hockey, right? Because they've never seen it, right? A lot of rinks just don't have enough girls for a women's exclusive league. And I totally get that, right? But we need to show these girls like there's more opportunities to keep playing. And so as a result, that team, they actually did really, really well because again, they're used to playing against boys and, they know the game. And they're playing against some of the women that are brand new to this game, right? So they held their own. It was awesome. But they were like, hey, we want to keep playing. So then they went to Philly, and they played in Philly in the Philly event together as a team. And the same thing, they were going to be, still together this year, trying to compete in other tournaments. And so I think that that's super inspiring. And then from there, as a result, we were able to introduce them to the U20 coach. So, I mean, imagine you're going from playing like co-ed with boys, like not really knowing that there's this whole other world, to then that same weekend seeing the U20 national team, they were competing in that same event. So, I mean, that's not a far grasp. Like those are people that maybe they recognize one person or, they travel together with people from that same area. But now it's like they have this whole community that they can like really, kind of jump into and have something to kind of aspire to. And so it's so cool. Even at that event too, you have national team players playing on different drafted teams and things like that. So those girls are seeing like this really huge spectrum of talent. So it's awesome, and I'm hoping that, USA ball hockey is super young, but that's what we're trying to do is, I'm really focused on the women's kind of aspect of USA ball hockey. And so we really want to start to develop these girls, right, at a younger age before they age out so that, they can learn the skills that they need to learn to maybe move up to the next level if they want, and also regardless of, what level they get to, it's the whole friendship. I mean, we have friends from all over, the US and it's just so cool, that we've played ball hockey with them, we've traveled with them and things like that. So I think that the community aspect is just something, anyone that's kind of ever been part of a sport kind of gets that, like your friends and those are people that you have as lifelong friends. So it's really huge. So
that there are a lot of great points that you made in there, and I think about leadership and seeing people play. The analogy that I recently came up with is it's been 50 years, and you and I weren't around for it, but it's been 50 years since Bobby Orr went through the air. They won the Stanley Cup in the 70s, and the NHL Network did this big documentary on that team specifically. And you and I can walk through TD Garden and see Flying Bobby right there as we go in, which I'm grateful for that. But one of the things that they talk about in that documentary is it's Howie Long was a football player, and Dennis, I can't remember Dennis's last name. I want to say it's Dennis Leary, but I don't know. They talk about how when they saw that goal or they saw, Bobby Orr playing, they took to the streets to play the game. And they started to learn the game from the street hockey perspective. And I think that we need to continue to get the NHL network showing more of you guys out there, even interviewing you guys, because that will just attract more people. Because let's face it, ice hockey, making the NHL takes a tremendous amount of commitment, money, money.
Yep.
And hopefully I'm not saying making a national ball hockey team is any easier. It's not. It's just getting more people to realize that this opportunity is out there. We need a way to get that broadcast out there. The other aspect that, I find to be really interesting is the NHL. With our conversation with the Bruins Foundation, they're really interested in seeing what local programs are doing. They're interested with us because we're 30 miles north of Boston. Maybe if they put their logo on the rink, people are like, oh, Boston Bruins Foundation. But I agree with you guys, because Bobby said the same thing. The NHL is starting to come online and start realizing that if we can get more kids playing the game, they're more likely to watch it and that. So my question to you is, do you feel like USA Ball Hockey will have or already has a relationship with the NHL, or do you see that blossoming more down the road?
I definitely see that blossoming. I think one of the big things too is not every NHL location has like a ton of ice, right? Like, so I think Tampa Bay Lightning is a good example. Down there they have some ice, yeah, but again, it's limited. But all those kids down there, I mean, the weather is perfect down there, right? So all those kids could be playing, in a rink or a park or wherever it is. So I think that's one of the big things. I think the NHL is recognizing that. I know Anaheim, they do a really good job too, as far as going into the schools and teaching the kids at the schools, like, giving them gear, teaching them how to hold a stick, teaching them the basics of that, and then like kind of growing that so that the schools can play each other. Right. And so I think that's, part of the key. What we do, UWs has gone to the YMCAs around Boston and the Boys and Girls Clubs around Boston. And we've gone in there and we've taught, like, all these kids, like, very basics, like, all right, here, no, we don't lift the stick over our head, like, let's be safe about it. But, I think that, and they're hungry for that, right? Like, we've gotten calls like, when can you guys come back? And we want to do it again. And I think, there is that hunger once someone starts to play. I think it's just the same thing. I think the NHL sees it too. I think, again, it's unfortunate that all of this has kind of happened in the world today. But, as a result of that, I think that if a kid did want to learn hockey, street hockey is, one of those easy ways to get started. And that's literally how I got started. I was literally playing on the streets, and then, just wanted to see what ice hockey was all about. But, my family is a totally Italian family, so they knew soccer, right? Like, so especially for those families that, don't really know hockey, they might see it every once in a while. But it's like super similar to, like, again, like field hockey, soccer, basketball. It's so similar to those sports, and you can play it anywhere. So I think the NHL is definitely recognizing that. I think that, in the future, you'll probably see more of that. I know some of the teams, probably in the warmer climates, focus on that more. I know Pittsburgh has put down a ton of rinks.
Yeah.
The Capitals have done that a little bit. I think, up here, the Bruins probably focus a little more on ice hockey, but I'm so happy that, you guys have this relationship with them, because I think that they're going to see the benefits of, not just focusing on the ice hockey, but also focusing on something that's way more accessible to so many more people, right? I mean, we heard that you guys were putting deck down, and, I want to train on deck, like, so as a national team player, it's super hard for me to find a place to play. And, keep working on my skills, because, as a national team player, we all have to do that on our own. So, if it's someone just picking up a stick and, walking to the park to, try it out, or if it's someone like me, like looking to train someplace, I mean, you guys have it, and so I'm super pumped. And I think that other NHL teams will hopefully start to support local communities that are looking for other avenues other than ice hockey. So
we're also great for the Bruins. I mean, unfortunately, coronavirus has kind of shut down, what we were working on together. Although they did give us a boatload of street hockey equipment. That was the Boston Bruins organization, and the director of youth hockey, he was actually going to come out to Gloucester for our mini camp, but that's all been put on hold for right now.
Just pause.
That was
pause. Yeah.
So I did want to ask you, though, you're obviously a very successful person. You just kind of walked on to the high school hockey team a little bit. Then you go to Northeastern and you still make the team. You know, your degrees from there. Now you're part of women's, you know, you created an organization. What makes Alessandra tick to be that successful? How do you get to that level that you're at, where you have the mental toughness, the grit? Where does that come from?
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's just I like challenges. I really do. I think what fuels me is if someone says like, "No, you can't really do that." You know, that's not. I mean, I remember watching, you know, the Bruins and sports when I was a kid, and I'm like, "How come there's no girls playing?" I just, you know, I didn't know any better, and then like as you got older, you know, I was super competitive in soccer. I'd go up against anybody, and I think, you know, taking some of that mentality, I think, you know, it's probably weird to say it, but it takes like a lot of failures and then that one win, and you feel so accomplished, right? Like, so whether it's you know, playing goalie and challenging yourself to, you know, get better, and then making that save that you didn't think that you could make, and surprising yourself and pushing yourself and continuing. I think being a female athlete, back when I played, there were hardly any girls playing. And so I kind of knew like every time I went on the ice, every time I went on the court to play ball hockey, I had to prove myself, right? I remember like going to warm-ups and people like not shooting hard on me because I was a girl, right? And I'm like, I'm playing on your team. You know, like going to a pickup and like having like these guys just like really like just kind of pass them to me. And I'm like, I need to get warmed up. Do you want me to play for you or what? And then just earning that respect, right? But I think that that is always in the back of my mind, is that, and that's okay. I think that's a good thing, is that I have to prove myself every single time I go out there. And I think that that's just kind of like the mentality that I carry, you know, with everything I do is I just want to do everything the best I can, but also that, you know, I kind of have to prove that I can do it. And I think like as time went on, I saw more opportunities kind of open up as a result of, you know, not just me, but like there's a ton of these girls on the Masters team, especially, that have kind of paved the way. So these other girls don't have to go through that struggle, right? Like now you see like there's tons of women's ice hockey teams for high school. When I played, I was on the boys team. I had to get changed in the bathroom every time. You know what I mean? And come out and then meet my team. And it was such a weird thing because you're part of a team, but you're not, right? And I think like mentally, just to kind of get through that, I had to be okay with it, right? And so like it just, I guess mentally it was always kind of like something that I've been working on, you know, just how can I fit in here? And it was always to prove myself, right? So if you're a good goalie, no one really cares, right? They're like, oh my God, she's good. Like, let's just keep her here. And so I think that that's what's always kind of inspired me to keep working hard, kind of like, you know, to prove it to myself that I can do it. And I think, you know, a lot of times it's hard to kind of push through adversity. So if things get hard, sometimes people are like, you know what, I don't think I'm going to do it. I think they would surprise themselves if they just push a tiny bit more and then they succeed, right? And I think that that's what I got a taste of, and kind of just addicted to that. You know, and honestly, like, just to kind of tie this all in, I think I've had that success, you know, working hard. I have really good coaches and really good opportunities. But I think that, you know, it kind of made me want to share all that with other people. So in 2007, when I went to my first world championship, I was like, this is so amazing. It was just like a life-changing moment. So one of the things, I don't know if you know this, but when you win a game at an international level, at the end of the game, they play your national anthem. It's just one of the most amazing things that you are, you know, in a different country. You're with your teammates side by side, and you're hearing your national anthem, you know, in front of like all these strangers, and it's just like such, you know, this bond. And ever since I kind of had that taste of that, I'm like, oh my God, I wish more people could have this experience. So I think that that's really driven me as far as like continuing to try to find like ways so that other people can have the opportunity to play, period. And whether they get to the national team level, that'll be on them if they want to keep pursuing it. But at least the opportunity. And I think that that was the biggest thing, is that there just wasn't a lot of opportunity, and it's just not right. Like, there are these amazing, amazing athletes out there that, these women that shoot harder than guys, but, are better athletes than guys. And it's just like, why weren't they, where are the opportunities for them? And so I think, that's what I've been seeing over the past, especially 5 years, is that those opportunities are growing. We just have to get the word out, I think, especially to, your young girls in Gloucester. I mean, there's like these doors that are going to be open for them by the time that they get older. Hopefully, in a few years time, we'll have a U16 national team, right? I mean, that's like what I'm really going to try to work for, is more opportunities. And so I don't know if that answers your question. It's kind of long-winded, but yeah, I don't know. It's just
yeah,
getting to see, these girls that I met when they were 12, up in the Milet Cup, and playing there, and like, them, excited to meet me. And I'm like thinking, well, I'm just a girl that plays hockey. I don't know. And now seeing those girls actually playing on the U20 national team, it's just amazing. Right. And it's all it is just trying to get people in touch with the right people and opportunities to align. So
there's a lot to be said for that, and I've said this before to Corey, more to Corey, even to Bobby Hauser and the Leominster group, is, I really feel like 100 years from now, I'll be gone. We'll be gone, right? But you guys will be the pioneers of this forefront. I mean, street hockey's been around for generations now. I've heard wonderful stories, but to take it to the next level, you need to have people that are willing to overcome challenges, like yourself, Corey, for sure. And it's really exciting to see the game. And my goal, even with this podcast, is to show people that successful people are all around you. Reach out to them. They'll take the time to chat with you. But also, I've learned through this whole process that the ball hockey community, deck hockey community, is actually it's bigger than what I ever expected. I mean, just by the amount on Facebook, the amount of people that I follow now, like Ball Hockey News. I mean, this is just a guy who's a fan of the sport that's running a site that shows great material. You know what I mean? And that's what grows the game too, is people get, a little bit of that. Sort of my last question for you, that you probably already hit it on, but is, what advice do you have for youth athletes, probably more specifically for female athletes though? What sort of words of wisdom do you have for them?
Yeah, I think, if you're an athlete, like in general, just to try different sports and see what you like. I think the big thing too is to have fun, right? Like, because honestly, if we weren't having fun, we probably would have stopped a long, long time ago. I know that, you guys are doing some really great things there, and it's all because you're passionate about the game. And I think that there's, so much that a young girl could benefit from. So a lot of the lessons that I've learned by playing ball hockey, again, like kind of just really working hard to better myself, to learn how to work with a team, just to overcome challenges, all those kinds of things, those life lessons that, I learned by playing sports, I like use all the time now, right? I mean, I was such a shy kid. I tell people this and they're like, no, no, you're not. I am a super shy person, but I think that, when I was a kid, I could put the goalie mask on and I literally could be like anyone I wanted. Yeah. It gave me that confidence to be like, you know what, I'm strong. I'm, smart. I can do this, like all those things where when I didn't have the mask on, I second guessed everything, right? When I was a kid and just kind of unsure of who I was and my identity. And I think that, by playing sports, and ball hockey is a great one, but that kind of showed me who I was. It was a really good opportunity to kind of have a different environment, right? Like, who knows what kids are going through at home. Sometimes they just need a break. And so to be able to play with their friends and, kind of build those relationships and things like that. I mean, those are the things I got, just confidence in myself, just this huge passion for the game, but also like this whole community that is really just, they're great, great people. And again, they're spread out all over the US, but some of my really great friends from when I was 12. I mean, like, it's so cool because we still keep in touch. So those are bonds, and they're really like my sisters. Side note, I don't think I told you this, but I actually met my husband through ball hockey. So we played co-ed hockey. So I got to say that this, all the great things in my life, I have to probably mention that. But I played on the co-ed team from Boston, and we had our rivals down in Philly that played, co-ed, and it happened to be that my husband now, he was on one of those co-ed teams down in Philly. So he's actually from Philly. And I'm, from up here, obviously, and that's how we met. We met on playing ball hockey. So, it's great. It's been so many relationships, like I said, but ball hockey has just like brought me so many things, just personally, but also, outside of hockey, just in work, in life, in everything. It's really touched all those aspects. So team sports are always great. Pushing yourself and seeing really like what you're capable of. You're going to surprise yourself, and it's awesome. So yeah, definitely.
Is there a way for people, even youth girls that are watching this, to get in touch with you?
For sure.
Of course, ways that you're comfortable, of course.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm on social media. I'm on Facebook a lot. My name Alessandra Glista. And you can also email aglista@usaballhockey.com. And then you can email if you want to learn more about UWs and like the opportunities that we have there. It's info@uwbhf.org. So there's tons of ways to get in touch with me. Either way, like I'll find you, just shoot me a message on Facebook, whatever it is. But yeah, we'd love to hear from any girls that want any more information, whether it's, tournaments, learning more about the national team programs. We're hoping to have development programs with USA Ball Hockey as well. We'd love to see you guys, definitely. So, once we're allowed to like be outdoors again, and we'd love to come up there and do a clinic for you guys, and it's super fun. Yeah. So yeah.
I really appreciate this. I wanted to just recap, tell you a funny story. Probably not funny at all. But I did get to play internationally in high school. I played prep school at Kimball Union, which is up in Meriden, New Hampshire, way up there by Dartmouth, border Vermont. For some reason, we decided to go to Russia during our Thanksgiving break. And in prep school, you get a whole week off for Thanksgiving. So my senior year, we get put into this tournament over, it's called the Tretiak Cup from Tretiak, who played on actually the U.S. team beat them in 1980s, and the Miracle on Ice. So we go out to Russia, to Moscow, we land. I kid you not, the whole week we had these two women translators. They went everywhere with us. I kid you not, we had every single meal at McDonald's.
Oh my God.
McDonald's. But to recap why this is relevant to what you said is that when we did win in that tournament, they did play our national anthem, and that was a wonderful feeling. It was a great feeling to have. We got our butts kicked by the Russian teams. We did beat, the Germans, and I think Finland was there too. I can't remember, but it was one of those experiences that you guys probably have, where we were celebrities for a little while, because wherever we went, there was a police escort following our bus. Yep. And people would line up as we got on the ice and off the ice. And to be frank with everybody, their teams were better than us. Their team was better than us, but they still treated us like we were like these famous people, and we really weren't. I'm not. So, but I will never forget having to eat at McDonald's every meal. I spent Thanksgiving Day at McDonald's. But to relate to you is that it was a wonderful feeling hearing your country's national anthem. So
that's great.
Thank you so much for doing this.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me. And honestly, like, I'm super excited, to see you guys evolve too. I'm sure like next year at this time, we're gonna have stories of, how you guys have evolved. And I think, I know that your rink's on pause, but don't let that stop you. You guys do have that awesome ice hockey rink, and if you guys are allowed over the summer, just start those programs in there, right? But just keep building, and again, like, it's just a little bump in the road, but challenges are fun to overcome, honestly. You come out on the other side. So we're going to be happy to come up there and see you guys for sure. And I can't wait. I'm super excited for you guys. So
I'm looking forward for you guys to come up for sure. I'm looking forward to that day. And again, this will, when we do have the rink built, this will bring more satisfaction to us all. So,
for sure.
so thank you. To everybody to close up today, I just want to say thank you to Alessandra. I got a chance to actually talk to someone that we corresponded months ago about, before all the pandemic hit, about doing something together. But there's a lot in what she has to say to everybody is, accepting those challenges. I mean, I can't imagine being, the only female and trying to play in playing against men, but it probably made you a lot better and make you challenges. To our girls that are watching this, there's so much opportunity out there. I can't express that enough. And Alessandra is so good. She will respond to you. She'll reach out to you. She's done that for me if I have questions. So take advantage of the opportunity that's out there. And I will see everybody next week when we have, I'm going to butcher his name, Anthony Senrocco on, who is the commissioner of the National Ball Hockey League. So take care, everybody. Thank you, Alessandra. And take care, and we'll see you guys soon.